Congressman Kirsten Haglund here, sticking on the topic of tax reform and also pulling in the issue of the deficit, which you spoke very strongly against, not wanting to, add to our $20 trillion budget deficit. But when you talked about tax reform, you said a great uniting thing was the fact that a lot of people said, all right, we are not going to pursue the border adjustment tax anymore. A lot of Democrats in the Senate have said we're not signing a bill that raises the deficit, which is a little ironic coming from Democrats. But how do you get a tax reform bill through, if we're so concerned about the deficit, without some kind of way to pay for it? What is the House's way to tackle this?
So you can reduce taxes. That does not add a penny to the deficit. The only thing that adds to the deficit is spending the money. So I think it makes a lot of sense to pair a tax reform, tax rate reductions with spending restraint. That's what we had always promised the American people. In fact, we look back in the 80s. We look back at the 80s and said if Reagan only had a Republican House, he would have been able to rein in some of the spending. Well, what are you going to cut? So there's been proposals on the Budget Committee involving our budget where you can get several $100 billion in savings just from welfare reform. So taking able-bodied, working-age adults and applying work requirements so that it's not a lifelong entitlement, but it's just a hand up where you're expected to work. So there have definitely been proposals that have been out there, and I think that makes a lot of sense to pair the tax reform with that spending restraint.
Well, what about the Congressional Budget Office releasing this new report today on Obamacare insurance payments? The CBO analyzing the effects stopping insurer payments would have on the budget as the Freedom Caucus launches this petition to force a vote of a straight Obamacare repeal. Should Congress pay any attention to this upcoming CBO report?
So here's the thing, Maria. Those payments have never been appropriated by Congress. Obamacare wrote it into the law but didn't provide the money, and then Congress has declined to appropriate the funds. The Obama administration continued to spend money on this when it wasn't appropriated. So I think it's a constitutional issue. If money hasn't been appropriated by law, you cannot spend it. If it is appropriated, then I think the executive has an obligation to spend it. So that is really the threshold issue. In fact, the House went to court last Congress to fight the Obama administration on this because we argued they were usurping Congress's spending power. So that is, I think, very important. And what the CBO would say, I don't know what they're going to say. I think they tend to view government spending as being a big cure-all. So I think that they're going to say paying money to insurance companies is a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing because I think it perpetuates the flaws in the Obamacare system.
Yeah, you make a lot of good points, Congressman. It's great to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
Congressman Ron DeSantis there.